And welcome back to another edition of the Business of Betting podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Edelstein, senior analyst at InGame. I am joined today by El Presidente, by Davey Pageviews, by the man of a million names, and now the current nonfiction #1 bestseller on the New York Times list, Dave Portnoy. Dave, Barstool Sports, man, thank you so much for joining me today.
Happy to do it.
So listen, man, let's start with the latest news. You're running for mayor. Come on. When are you going to officially announce your New York City mayoral run?
Yeah, I didn't say I was running for mayor. I said that I get fed up and I think about running for mayor. Depends the day you get me. Today I have a cold and don't feel great. So today I am not running for mayor. But it does bother me a lot of things that going on in New York City. Not only New York City, a bunch of places. So it depends on the moment you catch me and what type of mood I'm in.
All right, we're going to talk a little politics later. I want to talk about the book real fast. Did you expect to see yourself as the #1 bestseller on the New York Times list? It's got to give you some joy to see that.
Yeah, I mean, I was more relieved. I thought there was a chance. The book industry is a strange industry in terms of the New York Times formula is a little bit black magic. So you don't know exactly what goes into it. And no one can really give you a number on how many books. Like it could wildly vary week to week, depending on what books are released when my book is released. So I thought I had a shot at it, but I've never written a book, never sold a book. So I really didn't know what to expect. But I thought there was a chance when you hear some of the numbers.
The first, I listened to the audiobook over the weekend, and the first thing you say is like you hated doing you agreed to do it, and then you wish you did it.
No, I hated it. I originally planned on having a ghostwriter, and it just didn't work at all. Like I read the first page, it didn't sound like me. I knew it wasn't me. It just wasn't. I could never pass it off as my own book. I had to do a media tour for it. So it's like, how can you go on a media tour and talk about a book that you didn't write and a lot of it's not real? So I spent, I don't know, 6 to 8 months every day. That's all I did. And I did not enjoy the process. And the books, as far as I know, the book industry is not a lucrative industry, at least in our world, it's not. So the amount of time that was spent making and writing the book, it's crazy. I'm glad I did it. Like I like having a memoir of Barstool, and I think it's pretty accurate and pretty good. And when I'm dead and buried, it'll be nice to have, but I would have never agreed to do it again if I knew what went into it.
The last chapter in the book really dives into the your deal with Penn and how all that went. I wrote a story a couple years ago about the winners and losers in the post-PASPA era. If memory serves me, I think I called you the single biggest winner.
That's probably why I agreed to do this podcast.
Well, I mean, really, here you are. You're running Barstool Sports. You got the churning group that was A. Then Penn comes knocking. You create Barstool Sportsbook, right? They decide to go this route. It doesn't work for some reasons in or out of your control. Who knows? I mean, you're just going up against DraftKings and FanDuel. It was tough to begin with. They strike a deal with ESPN. ESPN wants nothing to do with you. Not only did you cash out by selling Barstool, you cash back in by buying it back for $1. So are you the most successful post-PASPA player in the gambling space?
I don't know how much the guys at FanDuel, DraftKings, and those guys end up making, but it certainly has benefited Barstool. There's no doubt about it. It changed the trajectory of my my bank account and the company. There's no doubt that we benefited from those laws, the legalization of sports gambling. We're right place, right time, right everything. So yeah, no doubt we are a huge winner.
So now you are with DraftKings. We see your smiling face on the DraftKings app, with your bets. How's that deal working out? Is it just a content deal, basically?
Yeah. And I mean, I've known those guys 20 years. Like I've known the DraftKings. I've known everybody in the space because, we were around before sports gambling was legal and the daily fantasy, we were like day one people. So we know each other really well. We could have taken deals for more money, to be honest. And we chose to go with who we knew, which was DraftKings, and thought they do the best job, best in business, so best in class. So it's gone great. It really has been a good relationship.
Overall, since we are the Business of Betting podcast, what's your take in since PASPA got overturned in 2018? Do you think it's been a success story, not quite a success story? I'm talking about just the idea that now sports betting, which was a little bit in the shadows, a little bit. Now it's completely out there, and now obviously prediction markets legal in all 50 states.
It's super competitive industry, and it's hard for, I would say, some of these companies when it seems like you get through one gold rush or competition and then technology changes or something else comes along. And like right now you have the prediction markets, right? So now you got to compete with those guys. And frankly, you can't tell what's legal, what's not legal. I mean, it is legal, but is it? So states are suing. So it's a super competitive industry that I don't think has shaken out totally yet.
No, yeah, it's definitely not. You know, everyone says we're still in the first inning, So we'll see. Going back to the Penn Barstool deal, where was the mistake? Did Penn misunderstand Barstool? Did Barstool misunderstand Penn?
Yeah, I don't think there was a disconnect between us and Penn. I think maybe it was a naivete of myself and Penn on how the Barstool history, for better or for worse, would survive in a legalized or a state regulated world. Because, like you said, it definitely wasn't successful. But I guess I always kind of look at how do we determine success? Because we actually, when we launched, we had pretty good numbers. Like I think Philadelphia, we were over like maybe we peaked around like 15% of that market of Pennsylvania. We were pretty big in a bunch of markets, relatively speaking, but that's taking a decent amount of market share. Our technology was horrific. So we basically, with Penn, decided we're going to kind of pull back the brakes on promotion. We're going to wait. We skipped an entire football season of promotion. Hopefully the market share would drop. And then when the technology came back, we'd put our foot on the gas again and the market share would rocket back up. We never got that chance. They went to ESPN before that. And in the middle of all that stuff, there's constant battles with state regulators, with them hating Barstool, playing with different rules. Like there's so many different things. The Massachusetts State Gambling Commission hated me. Like I'd see some of the things they said. There was a meeting, I referenced it, where one of the state gambling regulators literally is like, I have to put into the minutes that Barstool is being treated differently than DraftKings and FanDuel. We didn't get legalized in the state of New York. And the reason they gave is our technology was not up to par of the other companies that they picked. We were using the same technology. Like at that point, nobody had their own. We're all on Kambi. So how can our technology, but it was me. So that created issues that I think us and Penn, I mentioned in the book, we had an early meeting with Penn. Do we want to create a new name for this sports book and call it, the Go to the Moon Sportsbook, or do we want to use Barstool? And we talked about it. And I said, I think we're leaving a lot on the table here if we don't use Barstool. Our fans know us. And in the beginning, it was great, but it also attracts all the negative stuff. And we go into these meetings with state regulators, and they're reading hit pieces about us as though they're fact. And they're like, well, you did this, you did that. How are you going to get a license? And it was one headache after another. I think we could actually deliver the numbers that would have made it pretty valuable. But every time we took 2 steps forward, it was like 6 back. That was really outside our control. So it wasn't that Penn and us didn't understand each other. I think both of us didn't expect as much headache legally as we got.
I know that you've maintained a good relationship with Jay Snowden, so I'm not asking you to dance on anybody's grave here, but was there like a little bit of like, told you so kind of thing when the ESPN deal eventually cratered as well?
Yeah, well, I hate ESPN. So, and I think Bob Iger had a quote right after that deal was done that was eye-opening to me. He's like, well, they bid the most by far. And it's like, that's a weird thing to say about your new partner. Like, I would never say that. And ESPN, I've dealt with them and I hate them. Not all the people there, but the corporation. How could I not, with what we've intertwined? So yes, but I also didn't blame him because, the stock market's crazy and they're a public company. And I thought like he thought, and I wanted to because I still had a ton of Penn stock, that this thing would rip right away. Like, okay, stock goes up and so much of the value is on that. And it did go up and go down, but I totally understood why he did it because I felt the pain that he was feeling where it's like, well, anytime we try to like, I see still some of the things that happen in the gambling industry and things that are said. And it's like, oh, a little slap on the wrist or somebody on ESPN, like you can't lose this bet or, like prediction markets and you have sham? Somebody is being paid by FanDuel while also giving out tips about trades. And we got in trouble for having a can't lose parlay. Like it was clearly a joke. Like it always lost. Like we couldn't do anything. If we had to play by the tightest, strictest rules by a million. So it's really starting to get hard to promote when we can't be us. Like, we have to be so literal. And the things other companies are saying, I would have been thrown in prison. So we're playing by a very different set of rules. So yeah, when ESPN had worse numbers than we did without us even trying to promote it, I'm like, ESPN's a bunch of smoke and mirrors. And McAfee, he didn't promote it. Like, they don't care. Like the ESPN talent just doesn't care about ESPN. You know, they're not like, oh, go ESPN. Whereas Barstool, they do care about it. So yes, I was like, I wasn't surprised, but I still had a ton of Penn stock. So I wanted it to work.
A couple of big picture things I want to touch base on with you, if you're willing to talk about it. You've been in the public eye for a very long time, as well documented. Good and bad comes with that. In your mind at this point, where does like Dave Portnoy and Dave Portnoy begin?
They're pretty intertwined. Obviously, there's certain time I don't do it as much because, you know, I'm not in as much content, but I always amp things up. Like, that's how I talk. That's how I am. I talk in euphemisms. Like, if I'm talking to my friends, I talk the same way. Like, I just finished taping, you know, Wake Up Barstool, which is on Fox. So I'm on the show on Mondays, and, you know, I'm just going to rant on how much I hate American soccer, and American soccer, you know, has disgraced the country. And if I played on the team, I want to show my face. And that is how I talk. And I would talk like that to my friends if there were no cameras on. Now, am I being literal, and are people mad when I say stuff like that? Yeah, but that's like how we talk. It's like WWE. I mean it, but it's amped up. That's just who I am. But I don't really do things just for like people going, what are you, crazy? For clicks? I'm just being myself. And it is an amplified version of myself. When I got arrested protesting Tom Brady, would I have done that if I wasn't doing Barstool and I had a 9 to 5? Of course not. But that's how I felt about the situation. So it's just an exaggerated version.
Dealing with the world at large, I guess. I think somewhere in your book, you were talking about the time that you interviewed Trump and you FaceTimed your father, who not a Trump fan. I'm obviously messing it up. But basically, you were saying that, you know, you said to your dad, well, how could you like me, basically, if you hate Trump, you know, because if you believe everything that you read in the media, right? And he's like, oh, my dad loves me. Obviously, I'm his son. So, like, with that kind of in mind, when you are attacked in the media, you come out, you double down, basically. You come out so much harder. Do you think that people, listen, nobody says this about Dave Portnoy. He's all right. You know, they either love you or they hate you. And I think P.T. Barnum is quoted as saying that love me or hate me, just talk about me.
That's the Howard Stern. The people who listen to me, the people who love me listen for 5 minutes. The people who hate me listen for 10.
When you put your head on the pillow at night, are there times you're like, man, I just wish this would stop? You know, like I am a little bit, my mom and dad love me. Why doesn't everyone else love me?
No, I mean, there's certainly different types of battles. And some I lose no sleep on, but like the politics and when you're accused of like the stuff Business Insider does, yeah, I don't like that. Like, I wish that would stop. I don't put my head on the pillow and be like, man, why don't these people like me? I'm like, man, how do I destroy these people? But I'm not enjoying those fights. And there's things, I've said it before, but like it doesn't matter what I weigh in on now. People will bring up false allegations underneath it and be like, you can't talk because of this. I've gotten more used to that. It still kind of drives me crazy.
You know, the parent thing, there's a Jewish joke that I'm going to butcher this one too, but basically, like, what did the Jewish mother tell her porn star Jewish daughter after she just started a 200-person orgy?
I have no idea. I've not heard this joke.
Oh, honey, you were the best.
Yeah. No. And I mean, I don't know if that applies to my parents, but my parents have been supportive, and also my parents know me, so.
Right. Well, that's what it is. Like, I've seen videos of your parents. I'm like, man, I feel like they just came back from dinner with my parents. You know, it's like that Northeast Jewish, you know, age vibe, right? And I know you mentioned again in the book how your dad's like, you know, more on the liberal side. Going back to politics for a minute, did you grow up? Like, I grew up, I thought I was liberal. And then the last like 12, 15 years, I feel like I've been out liberal and I can't qualify as a liberal any longer.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was interested slightly. Like, I remember campaigned for this guy, Jerry Brown, way back in like high school. I feel like he's the first politician. I don't even remember why. I'm like, I like this guy. But we grew up in a household where the New York Times and CNN, what they said was in stone. It never crossed my mind there may be an agenda or it's left or right. I didn't really think that way. But before I started Barstool, I would have certainly said, I'm a Democrat, I'm liberal. What has happened through Barstool has certainly pushed me the other way. But I've also said many times, which is something people who I guess aren't paying attention to everything I say, which are a lot of people, I could go, if I like the candidate for the Democratic Party in the last election, this election upcoming, I could vote Democrat, no problem. Like, I'm not in stone one way or the other. I judge a lot on who I think the best candidate is, and that's how I kind of roll. So not a lot of people think that. People think I'm like a crazy MAGA right guy, which is not true. But, in the same breath, I would re-vote for Trump if everything re-rolled out the same way it did last election. I would make the same decision. Like, I thought Biden was incompetent, and I didn't like that they didn't even give us a choice. So, everything, I look at what's available. But I did say before, it's like, before all that went down, I was like, I will not vote for Trump because I think he's too divisive and I want the country to get together. But then everything fell apart in the Democratic Party. And so, there's no good candidates. I am pretty much on the record as I think all politicians stink.
Yeah, agreed. Well, which brings me back actually to what we started the conversation with. Pre-Trump, anyone who's not a doctor, a lawyer, scientist, or lifelong politician was pretty much automatically disqualified from running for like real office, right? Post-Trump, that's changed dramatically, I think. I think it's kind of opened up the playing field to anyone, that is willing to get loud and be in front of the public eye. So when you say, half serious, half joke, say that you might run for mayor one day, is the bug in your ear a little bit about maybe, 10, 15 years down the road, actually literally getting into politics?
Yeah, but it's not for the reason a lot of politicians, I think a lot of politicians are egomaniacs. There's lifetime politicians who never had a real job in their life. And then I'm at a spot where I'm alarmed at what's going on. I don't have a family. I've made plenty of money. I always thought you could do more in the private sector to help. I don't have, like, being in Washington and being in politics, that does not inherently appeal to me. I think that makes me more appealing, actually. It's like the old Gladiator when he tells Maximus, like, you got to take over Rome. He's like, I don't want to take over Rome. He's like, well, that's why you have to. There's a civic duty, and I've misquoted, you want misquotes, this is mine, but the Plato quote, which is, if you don't do your civic duty in politics, you're doomed to be basically run by people dumber than you. And that's kind of how I feel like the society is right now. Like, who in their right mind would want to be a politician? Like, if I was in politics, my life, all the stuff I said I hated, the Business Insider, that would be front page stuff every single day. It would be quoted as true. It would drive me crazy. So there's not that part of me is like, oh, I'm loud, I want to do it. But I think we need good people. And I'm biased because I'm talking about myself, but I think I'm a good person. And I think my track record speaks, unlike a lot of these people, doing things that actually help working people and businesses when I had absolutely no intention of being involved in politics. So that's kind of what I wrestle with. But if we're going to have people getting elected who openly say they want the downfall of Western society and that we deserve 9/11 and, no borders, no police, no jails, that you don't like interracial marriage, and these people are getting elected, that is something that is very shocking to me. And that's what makes me think, well, Dave, why not you? Like, so you can sit around with all your money and you're in Nantucket and the Keys. So it would be a decision because I felt like I have an obligation to do it, really. And I'm in a unique position where I could do it. Like, I don't know how many people, like, I've made it. I don't have kids. If I had a family, I would never do it. So I think I'm uniquely positioned. And I think people drastically underestimate how popular I am amongst the people I'm popular with.
But your popularity has also kind of mushroomed a little bit because of you've stepped out of like the bro culture, let's call it, right, with Barstool, like the pizza reviews, for instance.
People know me a million different ways, correct.
Let's talk the pizza for a second. I'm willing to, like, when I told my wife this today that I was interviewing you, she said, oh, the pizza guy, right? So there must be millions of people who know you strictly.
It's probably the number one thing people know me by.
What's the genesis of that?
It was myself, Dan, Big Cat, who's been with us forever. We had a debate. If you could eat one food the rest of your life, what would it be? I said pizza. He said burritos. And we did it for about a month. Like, that's all we ate. And as I was eating, people just started asking, hey, is it any good? I'm like, I'll take a bite, one bite and score it. And I could tell it hooked people. So when we're done with the contest, I continued to do it. We moved from Boston to New York. And I said, I'll try every pizza place in New York. And it just, we're good at realizing what catches people, or for whatever reason, the pizza reviews did that. whether it was a window into, the streets of New York or whatever it was. But for over 10 years now, it's been a core to what we do or what I do.
So I was aware of it. And then, I live in outside of Princeton. You were down here and you went to DiLorenzo's and which is a religion. That's a religion around here. And I'm watching, I'm like, man, this motherfucker better give it a fucking high score. Otherwise I'll trust nothing that comes out of his mouth ever again.
No, that's a great spot. So is Conti's.
And Papa's, right? But I know you are on record as saying the Connecticut style is just a touch above the Trenton style. New Haven.
I prefer the New Haven, but that's a great style too.
All right. Well, I'm not going to argue about it with you. You're wrong, but we'll another day. And then also going again, talking about where the blossoming during COVID, the Barstool Fund. What was the genesis of that idea? I wrote about it a bunch of times. I talked to a bunch of different people where money landed. I mean, without blowing too much smoke up your ass, you saved a bunch of people's livelihoods.
That started COVID, and that was another, to me, government shit show, however you want to say it. But I couldn't understand how the government could basically say, hey, all you local bars, restaurants, gyms, bowling alleys, you have to be closed. You can't let customers come in, but we're not going to give you any money anyway. So what do they were forcing these people out of business. Frankie Borelli, who at the time did my camera, worked the camera for the pizza reviews. His family owned a pizza place, Borelli's in Long Island. And we were talking about it. He's like, we've had this place for 30, 40 years. My dad's going out of business. He won't fire anybody. So we did a fundraiser for him, raised some money. And then I also got challenged. I was ranting and raving about it, how crazy it was for these businesses that have been around for decades, sometimes 50 years, 70 years. And the only thing that has changed that's successful for that long is COVID and the government shutting them down. So I ranted, raved. Somebody said, put up your own money. So I put 500 grand into an account and said, we're going to start giving this money to small businesses, small businesses who have proven to have a track record of success, who still have their employees, and we will pay their bills for the rest of COVID. Every month, they need 20 grand, 30 grand. We'll pay it until they can open up again. And if anybody wants to donate, and we'll give the money to people. We raised about $50 million pretty quickly and saved about 450 small businesses through that. So I'm very proud of it. And my favorite part of the story is a lot of these businesses repaid the loans. After they got back on the feet, we don't need the money anymore. Here it is. Go help the next guy. So for all the crap that, people talk about the United States and what's going on, that was a version of, Americans helping other Americans as best as possibly they could. So very proud of it. And people mention all day. I was actually tagged today. I saw one on Instagram, and we get these all the time. The name of the place is celebrating 11 years, locally. We owe it all to Dave Portnoy at Barstool Sports. If Dave Portnoy didn't help us Christmas 2026 years ago, we wouldn't be proudly celebrating our 11th years. So that stuff continues to come in. I get a little tingly just reading it. It was a great thing we were able to do, and it was our crowd. And it was one of those things, we just happened to be in the position to be able to help. So we shifted the entire company during that time. That's all we worked on. And the difference in what made it work, from the second we approved you had the money in your account within 24 hours. There's no red tape, no nothing. It's all right, you're good to go. How much you need? Bang, it's there, and you'll have it every month till you can open again.
Was there ever any talk or any consideration to keeping that going in some form, post-COVID?
Yes, but the rules of charity are quite confusing and red tape-ish. So we couldn't take money saying we were giving it to help COVID-affected businesses and give money to any businesses unless it was COVID strict. So we couldn't use the Barstool Fund. It would have had to be something totally new. So we did try to do it. We did look into it. That's the reason we didn't.
Going back to that for a quick moment, again, with your reputation, for better or worse, preceding you, has there been instances either with the Barstool Fund or with the pizza or anything else in your life generally, where you show up, you do something, decent, and someone's like, Jesus, I thought you were an asshole. You're not.
No, there's not too much of that. It's such very rarely, and the times I have been confronted are on camera, but if I've done 10,000 pizza reviews, there's been 3 or 4 where somebody had preconceived notion it was a jerk. I'm never going to be a jerk unless someone's a jerk to me for no reason. So no, I don't get too much of that. the people who in the pizza world, I've met like almost all of them is like a community. So they know me pretty well.
Again, I want to touch base on something that we touched on earlier. I'm an Edelstein. There's the Goldbergs. There's the Cohens. Then there's like the Dave Portnoy and the David Lee Roths of the world who are Jewish, but it's not a blinking red light, right? The last few years have been an interesting time to be an American Jew. How has that kind of like infiltrated your life here?
Well, it's a scary time. I felt compelled to speak out more than I ever have about being Jewish or anti-Semitism. I mean, I really didn't feel it most of my life growing up at all. I didn't feel it with Barstool. We've been around 24 years. For the first 21 years of it, like we would joke back and forth. And I remember me and Kevin Clancy, he got a big Christmas tree. I got a big menorah. He got a bigger Christmas tree, but it was all fun and games. There was no hate behind anything. I'm sure there's anti-Semitic stuff out there, but it was few and far between, or I didn't really notice it. And obviously, maybe not obvious, but ever since the war has broken out in Israel, it's like a 180. It's like open season. And I feel like Jews need somebody or people to speak out against it. And I have, and it's created quite a bit of hate for me from anti-Semitic people or whatever. But again, I'm in the position, if I'm not going to talk out, who is? And, I see a lot of, whether it be older Jews, kids in college, they thank me. They're like, we need somebody who's like well-known and maybe even someone you wouldn't expect to be speaking about this stuff. And I also think there's a lot of Jews who don't say anything, who are in positions of power or, in influential positions, don't say anything because the blowback that comes with it. And it's a lot, but it's a crazy time to be a Jew right now in the United States, no doubt.
Do you think it gets better or it gets worse? Or
I think it gets worse. I think, because again, politics is such a dirty game, but basically, you don't have to say it direct, but if you are basically right now, like, I hate Jews, you can win on that. Like, I mean, Mandami and his crew sort of won on that. There's people like Plattner in Maine was close to winning on that. Like, and now you obviously get into a little bit of a complexity with, is free Palestine meaning you hate Jews, like stuff like that. But I'm talking Nazi symbol tattooed on your chest. That should be a pretty clear cut, like, disqualifier, and it's not. So that's scary. The only thing I'll say is there's always causes. And a lot of times there's truth in the causes, whether it's Occupy Wall Street, Me Too, Black Lives Matter, Free Palestine. There's truth to all these movements, and they kind of get hijacked and they go into a whole different space. I think that's sort of what's happening here. And, I don't know what people think happens. Let's just say Israel gets blown up by Iran or, river to the sea, and they disappear. I don't know what Americans think their life is like. You think that changes your life when you wake up tomorrow? Like, all these people running on that specific issue. Why do you think that changes your life here in America? It doesn't. You'll just go on to the next cause. So I don't know where these people go, but it is a very, it seems to be like, if you code it or you're basically like, I hate Jews, that is a positive sentiment to get you through in politics right now. So that's scary.
Using this as a jumping off point a little bit then, and I think you're in an interesting position to answer it, not as a Jew, but as the founder of Barstool, is that it seems to me, and I think social media plays a big role in this, that the Jewish thing is kind of funny because the far left and the far right both are not exactly fans of the Jew,
Correct.
Right? But virtually everything in the public sphere now, you're not hearing from the middle 80%. It's just the loudest voices on the left and the loudest voices on the right that take up all the oxygen in the room, right? And how do we get out from under that? And again, I'm asking you because Barstool, you guys have made a little bit of a living of being the loudest guys in the room, right?
Yeah, but we're also, I would say, very much the middle in how we view the world. Like, I mean, I don't, in that office, you don't get the hate the Jews or whatever. You don't get the extremes. It's the middle. I don't know how you get out of it. And you look at voter turnout, that's obviously, it's like something that you wrestle with. It's like, all right, well, these people are getting elected with very low voter turnout in their districts or whatever. So, all right, don't let that bother me because this isn't representative of the country as a whole. Yeah, but if these people keep getting elected, they're going to have enough power to start affecting. So I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. Again, it all goes back to, for me, the worst of the worst want to get involved in politics. These are not normal, everyday people who are worried about their job and making a living and providing for their family or going to a sports game or enjoying their lives. Both extremes stink, and only stinky people would be attracted to both of these extremes, but that's all they do. Like, while they're organizing and canvassing and getting their people out to vote, we're going to our jobs. So it's like you're almost at an unfair advantage versus these lifetime politicians and these people. Like, as much as I do talk about politics now, it's still 2% of what I'm talking about.
Right.
And it's only when I'm like really compelled. And then you have the other people, that's all they talk about. Like it's 100% of their existence is politics.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you combat these people when they're the lunatic fringes.
What's upsetting to me about Trump, and I didn't vote for Trump either time, and I wouldn't vote for him if he ran again. But what's upsetting to me about Trump is that he did what so many people have always wanted, right? We need to elect somebody from outside of politics. You know, we got somebody that everyone can get behind. Trump had the opportunity to like be beloved by just about anybody, you know, and he still continues to kind of have like the ability to do kind of whatever the fuck he wants. But I feel like he just leans way too far to one side, right? And you sat with the man, you met the man.
This would be my attempt at speaking for him. I've said this about me. I don't think he could have been beloved by both sides.
Not the far ends, but the middle.
But he gets attacked. My dad, I would consider the middle. There's nothing he could do in a million years to make my dad like him. And there's a lot of people out there who it's like, I do prescribe to this, like Trump derangement syndrome, where it's like, it doesn't matter. Everything is his fault. And, you know, I get when you ask, but you ask somebody a question about something that has nothing to do with Trump. Like, why is Plattner getting elected? Well, Trump. Like, okay, that's not an answer. So I don't think he could have been beloved. And maybe that's my background. And like, I don't think I could ever get the people who don't like me not to like me. And the more they keep coming at me and attacking me, the more it's like, he doesn't play nice. He acts like he works for Barstool. He's like, you hit me with a feather, I'm going to hit you with a wrench. And he's the president, and it exasperates things. So, you know, when I interviewed him, my first question was about Ollie G and him seeing that it was a prank show. And I could see his demeanor change. Like, all right, this guy's not out to get me. And he was nice and normal. But I don't think, so when you say he could have been, I don't know that that's true. It's his personality combined with how politicized, you're either left or you're right. It's hard to be beloved by both sides. And his personality, could he have been? He would have to be a totally different guy. Like, it's just not, you know, he ran on being this crazy, like, person, basically, and insulting and sharp and witty, but all stuff that you expect to see online, not in a presidency. And I think what's happened is the left is like, oh, you can win that way. And now we're going to try, they almost like emulate him. And now everybody's like that. And it's just a cesspool.
It's ugly. Yeah, I mean, you said he's funny. That I have a 17-year-old son, and during the last election, I said, you know, he couldn't vote. I said, if you could vote, who would you vote for? He said, Trump. And I said, why? He said, he's hilarious.
Well, he says things. He says things that are funny and like, oh, that's a good joke. And he definitely, to me, seems far more authentic than almost everybody else in his realm. So for me, that goes a long way.
Yeah, I mean, that counts, right? Because whether you love him or hate him, he's not censoring himself.
No, and he's always there doing the interviews, and like, you know, you look at, again, going back to the last election, you couldn't get Biden to speak to the media. Like, you couldn't. They're hiding this guy. So all of that plays a factor for me.
Let's go back to Barstool. Right now, the contract you signed when you bought it back for $1, if you were ever to sell it again, Penn gets 50%. Is there, I'd never say never, but is there a world where you see?
No, I don't see it. I mean, never say never is right. If the right deal came along and we did work something out with Penn for that, and Barstool was happy, I could see it happening, but I don't know who that would be.
Another thing, you know, obviously you've been the subject of some stories that you've pushed back against very strongly. Cancel culture has seeped into this, you know, world, which I'm not a huge fan of cancel culture, but I am a fan of accountability. Is it still possible to be accountable in a cancel culture atmosphere?
Yes. So I think this is something that it's just like free speech. People sometimes get confused on, like, you know, someone goes into my bar in Philadelphia and has a sign that says "fuck the Jews," and I'm like, well, I want to ruin this kid's life. They're like, free speech, free speech. I'm not saying he goes to jail. I'm saying he came into my house and said "fuck the Jews." You should be held accountable for that. So cancel culture and accountability. Cancel culture to me is, all right, I don't like Dave Portnoy, so I'm going to dig back into everything this man has said for the last 20 years. And I found something I don't like 18 years ago, and I'm going to try to cancel him based on an 18-year-old joke. To me, that is cancel culture. Accountability, if I say something today that is racist, sexist, whatever it may be, and I say it right now on this interview, hold that person accountable. You're not going out of your way to look for, I want to bring this guy down, but he did something in real time, or she did something that deserves to be held accountable. Those are the differences to me. So we did, I think, go through a period in cancel culture when it's like, I don't like this person. Let's go through everything they've ever said or done and try to find a smoking gun to get rid of them. That I do not like. But if you do it real time or recent, that's a pretty different story to me.
The history of Barstool, real quick. One of the things that I'm most impressed with is that the ability, well, I don't even say ability, but the fact you've found a lot of people that went on to even more, and bigger careers. And I think your philosophy, and correct me if I'm wrong, has basically been, you're going to hire someone because you like them, and you're going to let them do their thing and come what may. Is there anything you would have changed with that philosophy as you're looking back?
No, I think it was a huge advantage for us. The timing of when we came about, we're an early digital media company. I think a lot of more traditional networks, sports networks, radio talk shows, radio networks, they weren't nearly as nimble or open-minded as we were. We were really born from the internet, and the internet is the great equalizer. If you're good on the internet, the views will come and you can distinguish. So we hired a few people from networks, and I was always amazed that they almost, when they first got to us, would be like, tell me what to say. Like, tell me what to do. What does the show look like? I mean, that's all on you. It's we don't tell you what to do. So I could never have come up with Pardon My Take. I would have never come up with Call Her Daddy. I would have never come up with like the Pat McAfee Show. You got to find these unique people and let them be themselves. And I think a lot of networks or traditional media, they're like, you need a background from college in journalism or whatever, and then we're going to tell you how to fit into our world. And we just don't do that.
Of all the potential misunderstandings about you, if there was one thing that you'd want people who have preconceived notions about you to know, what would it be?
Well, I mean, if I could reverse one story, the Business Insider stories, the one I'd be like, get that off the record. There's zero truth to it. And still to this day, I would pay an obscene amount of money to see the communications of what launched that, like how it came about. That's what I tried to sue for because I know it would show malice, but I've never been able to get it. That's the one I want gone. I mean, the main thing people think is I think I'm far more right than I am truly. Like my views crisscross left and right. But those people who have pushed me right, they'd still hate my guts. Like, so I don't really care.
Do you keep track of your gambling wins and losses?
No, not really. No, I'm better off probably not.
Do you enjoy placing a few bets on a Sunday afternoon NFL, or do you prefer Davey Day Trader type, moving stocks around?
I love the Davey Day Trader when it was going. I think it's a lot safer. Like the stock market, if you're not in a rush for your money, like if you can leave your money in there and withstand it going down, it generally comes back up. Sports, you lose, it's zero. So, but my favorite thing to do is bet on horses. It's my absolute favorite thing to do. But I love betting on football. I love all of it, as long as you do it in control, obviously. But I love it. I love it all. I've always loved it.
You founded Barstool. You sold Barstool. You review pizza. The list goes on and on and on. Outside of a potential life in politics, which I think the more I hear you talk, I think you're actually going to do it one day. Is there something out there that you haven't accomplished that you'd like to tackle?
I want to win a grade 1 horse race with one of my gray horses. That's what I would like to do. But no, people have always misunderstood or not believe me that I could just disappear. Like one day be poof. And I could do that. The horses are expensive. So I got to keep working to fund that. I'm poor for the horse racing world. I don't know where this country is going in politics or the world in general. So I keep my eye on that and hope things move away from the direction they're moving now, because I do not want to get involved in politics.
Have you been approached for politics? By real people?
If I wanted to run for mayor of New York, I could have the biggest war chest probably in the history of political war chess. I have billionaire after billionaire willing to fund a campaign if I was going to do it. Yes, serious people. Unsolicited, like, because no one wants to do it. Like, who the heck wants to do it?
Well, you have to, yeah, as you said, you have to be a little bit crazy to do it. I think, are you a little bit crazy?
Yeah, I am a little bit crazy, but this is a different type of crazy. Like, it's a different type of crazy.
Dave Portnoy, thank you very much for joining us. I think I'm going to hold you to all of this. And when you do decide to run for something, I'm going to have you back on.
All right. Sounds good.
Thanks, David.
Yep. See you guys.